Hello and welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is David Novak. So this is a recent reads video in which I talk about the books that I have recently finished reading. And I'm not sure what I will have to say about these various titles. I seem to be plowing through novels at a rather rapid clip. I failed to make an entry for Les Miserables in my little journal in which I record these things. And I think I had gotten 300 pages or so before I finished it. I mean, did not finish it. DNF in booktube parlance. I was not happy with it. And I almost was inclined to give up fiction altogether at that point, but I read the saga of the Volsungs, and that was where I left off with my last recent reads video. And I have finished 2 more novels since then, as well as 1 work of history. So let me start with the novel. I read Disgrace. I don't think this is a really wonderful cover because you can barely see the title there, Disgrace. And this I think is the author's most well-known novel, unless it's Waiting for the Barbarians, which I have not read. It's the only one that I've read. I've read a couple of volumes of his essays, and I must say that I liked it. I don't know that I'll rush out to read any more of J.M. Coetzee immediately, but I really liked the story. I had heard going into it that a professor has some kind of an affair with a student, and I thought, well, you know, I'm not that interested in reading about college teachers, and it sounded kind of pedestrian. I was completely wrong. There are so many twists and turns to this plot. Every step of the way, it takes you in a new direction that you did not expect. And I look forward to reading another book by him. I don't know if it will be this one, but I just happened to see that I had it. And I didn't even realize that I had it. It's also fairly short. Maybe it should be. It must be pretty popular. This looks like in perfect shape, but I have no idea where or why I have it. This book turns up all the time in the neighborhood book box, so it is commonly read. And as a person who knew nothing about South Africa, his story really lays it all out pretty well. You get a sense of the different people there and what life on a daily basis there is like. So this really, except for the ending, which I was not really pleased with, I will not spoil the ending for you, but there's a certain type of book that will frequently have an ending of this sort, and I disliked the ending very much. But other than that, I believe that the book will stay with me for a long time. After that, I picked up, well, I didn't pick up, I've had it sitting around for a year. About a year ago, the Evening Reader, Priscilla, recommended this book as a good Western entree. This is now June on the Range, a booktube event. And I sat on it for a year and decided, that was a love bite I'm getting. You can't really see that, but that was what happened right there. And I really enjoyed this. I had seen the John Wayne movie when I was younger. It was considered a classic Western at the time. I now understand that the bones of that movie come directly from this novel, and the novel is quite incredible as far as the genre must go. It's the first Western that I've ever read, and in the long run, I don't think I will read anything else by Charles Portis. I liked the first half of the book very much, but the book seemed to be selling a kind of version of masculinity, which I no longer, I was going to say no longer aspire to. I'm not sure that I ever did, but that I no longer hold in supreme regard, if I ever did. And I don't care for that too much. So you have the, I will spoil a little bit, you have the hero who, to save a young girl's life, runs his horse to death, and that kind of thing. That's an ideal of masculinity and taking charge that I don't know anymore if I would adhere to that kind of ideal. Why should an animal be sacrificed for the sake of a spoiled and obnoxious young girl? But be that as it may, the narrator has a very compelling voice, and I think it in that sense probably is better than the movie. I have not yet seen the Coen brother movie, but I hope to. I would like to find out why they felt it needed redoing. I would suspect they decided they wanted to cleave more to the plot points than the John Wayne epic did. And besides which, you can't see that movie without thinking of John Wayne and Glenn Campbell. At least a viewer of my generation can't, and be aware of them as celebrity icons in their own right. And it would be nice to see the story done with actors who are portraying characters. But it was obviously a winning role for John Wayne. It fit right in with the kind of machismo which was his selling point, I think. It's a very witty book, and a very fast read. It took me a few days, I think, because I did not want to put it down. Early on, I made a connection with this book and Mark Twain, Tom Sawyer, to be specific, and I felt that this was more cohesive in a sense, whereas Tom Sawyer is very episodic. This is a succession of episodes, but they are all subsumed to the one major plot point of chasing after this bandit. So it's something of a revenge thriller, I guess you would say. And in a way, I wish that I had not early on made that comparison, because as I progressed with the novel, it just impressed upon me that the book is, in many regards, inferior to Tom Sawyer or to something by Mark Twain. The narrative style was very much of that variety, just very to the point and fast moving. But as far as deeper themes that you would certainly find in Twain, I don't think you get in Portis. You do get humor, which makes up for a lot of deficiencies in any sort of work. So that was the second novel that I finished. Just to give you a glimpse of where I am now, I have started reading In a Lonely Place by Dorothy B. Hughes, a book I'd never heard about but for BookTube. There goes another love bite. And I've only read a few pages in, a dozen pages in, and I am really liking the story so far. I've never read any noir literature, so I don't know if this is typical of the genre, but I've never read a narrative quite like this. It does remind me of a film noir. I hear that it was made into a movie that drastically changed things around so much as to make it a different story, sharing only the title But that's where I'm going, so perhaps the next Recent Reads video will cover that. And I finished, finally, the Pelican History of Medieval Europe by Maurice, and I cannot speak highly enough of this book. I bought this one over 40 years ago when it was new on the at the bookstore, and this was before they started putting stickers to raise the price, so that's a sure sign that it was old, and just have never read it and have always been curious about and wanting to learn about the Middle Ages, medieval times. Never done so, and little did I know I had so many of the answers right here at hand. For a beginner's introduction, this was marvelous. I'm not 100% a beginner in that a year or two ago I read The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire, which does deal with the Middle Ages. And then last year, I think it was, I read The Crusades, the History of the Crusades by Stephen Runciman, a 3-volume set. And of course, the Crusades figure into this story. When I read Runciman's trilogy, I had no real grasp of what was happening in Europe at the time, and Maurice has filled me in quite a bit. He lays matters out in a way that helps you to comprehend the bigger pieces of what was happening. And he will occasionally stop to say that. He will say, before I proceed to such and such, you need to have a little bit of background about X, Y, and Z. And that style really was helpful. When next I read something about the time period, I still will not be sure about all of the characters, the what is it, the John the Bald, and Egmont the whatever, superfluous, all those weird characters with titles. I won't remember much of that, but I got a sense of the geography of the times and the different kingdoms, and also the sense that there was a lot going on that could not be compassed in one slim volume. But at least when I encounter any of that material in the future, I will be a lot more secure. So he has written other books about chivalry and about the times, about medieval warfare, and I think I will be considering those for future reads, simply because I liked his prose style so much. On the heels of that, I have started Stephen Runciman's The Fall of Constantinople. I just put up his first couple of sentences. In the days when historians were simple folk, the fall of Constantinople, 1453, was held to mark the close of the Middle Ages. Nowadays, we know too well that the stream of history flows on relentlessly, and there is never a barrier across it. Well, Keene very much wrapped up with the fall of Constantinople being a footnote, but he in no wise suggested that that marked the end of the period. But for me as a reader, it's very good to be starting up with this. I wavered between this and The Waning of the Middle Ages by Huizinga, I think his name is. But I believe that that book may well be more of the rise of the Renaissance book, which is not where I want to be looking right now. So this is my next book in terms of history, and that is my recent reads, and I will talk to you sometime in the future. Thank you very much for stopping by my channel.